The eyesore that started it all. It all started on a calm Sunday morning in my quiet suburban neighborhood. Birds were chirping, sprinklers were running, and I was in my driveway polishing my pride and joy, my old red tractor. It wasn't just any machine. It was my late father's. Every scratch, every dent had a story behind it. But to the HOA, it was nothing but an eyesore. I first got the notice folded neatly on my porch, sealed in an envelope that screamed trouble. Dear resident, it began. Your tractor violates neighborhood aesthetics and must be removed or concealed immediately. Typical HOA nonsense. They wanted every house to look like it came straight out of a real estate magazine, fake lawns, beige paint, and zero character. But this tractor? It was part of my life. I used it for yard work, gardening, even plowing the small patch of land behind my house. That evening, as I leaned on the tractor, sipping a soda, Karen, the HOA president, came, marching up my driveway in her perfectly ironed outfit, clipboard in hand. Mr. Walker, she said sharply, you can't just leave that thing out here. It's ruining the neighborhood's image. I smirked. Thing? You mean the machine that actually does something useful around here? She frowned. I'm giving you 48 hours to move it or face a fine. When she left, I could almost hear the echo of her high heels as a declaration of war. I wasn't about to let them push me around. That night, I sat in my garage staring at the tractor under the dim bulb. Its paint was faded, but its heart was strong, just like me. Then, an idea struck me. If they thought my tractor was ugly, what if I made it impossible to ignore? The next morning, I drove into town, picked up high-gloss automotive paint, and went wild. Metallic silver, racing red, carbon fiber vinyl, everything a supercar would have. I spent hours sanding, painting, and detailing. I even added LED strips under the frame. By the time the sun dipped behind the trees, my tractor didn't look like a farm machine anymore. It looked like something that just rolled off a racetrack. When I fired up the engine and the LEDs lit the driveway, I couldn't help but laugh. It was ridiculous, over the top, and perfect. The next day, Karen came storming down the street again, her mouth falling open as she saw my creation. What? What did you do? She gasped. I smiled. You said it was an eyesore, so I made it a sight worth seeing. Her face turned crimson. This isn't over, Mr. Walker. She snapped before marching off. I knew right then. I'd just started a war with the HOA, and I was more than ready for it. The viral tractor. The next morning, I woke up to a sound I hadn't heard before, laughter. Not from me, but from my neighbors. When I stepped outside, I saw a small crowd gathered near my driveway. Kids were pointing and taking pictures, and even a few of the older folks were smiling. Whoa, is that a Ferrari tractor? One of the teenagers shouted. I chuckled. Close enough. I call it the Ferrari. By noon, someone had uploaded a video of it to social media. Within hours, it had thousands of views. By evening, the clip had exploded across the internet. Man turns his HOA eyesore into a supercar tractor. I was still laughing when my phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. Karen, HOA president. Take down that ridiculous contraption or face serious penalties. I texted back one word, no. 5 minutes later, she was on my doorstep again, clutching that same clipboard like it was a weapon. Mr. Walker, she said, her voice trembling with restrained anger. This display violates Section 14B of the Neighborhood Regulations. No non-automotive machinery may be displayed in plain view. I crossed my arms. So you're saying it's non-automotive? Because last time I checked, it runs on an engine, has lights, and can move faster than your Prius. Her lips tightened. You think this is funny? You're making a mockery of the HOA. Exactly, I said. That's when she snapped a few photos of the tractor and stomped off, muttering something about calling a meeting. I figured she'd try to find me, maybe even tow it away. But what she didn't expect was that the internet had already picked sides. By the next morning, local news vans were parked outside my home. Reporters were asking for interviews. Mr. Walker, what inspired this design? One of them asked. Petty HOA drama. I replied with a grin. The best part? The HOA's website got flooded with comments from all over the country, people mocking their obsession with appearances. Someone even started a hashtag Supercar Tractor Rebellion. That evening, as I sat on my porch, Karen drove by in her spotless SUV, glaring at me through her window. The tractor gleamed under the sunset like a trophy. I raised my soda can in a mock toast. She didn't wave back, but I knew she wasn't done. The HOA never quits easily, and neither do I. As the news trucks rolled away, I caught sight of two men in suits taking photos of my property from across the street. Something told me the next battle wasn't going to be about aesthetics. It was going to be legal. The legal showdown. A week later, I received a thick envelope in the mail stamped HOA legal notice. I didn't even need to open it to know what it was about. Inside, the letter was loaded with formal threats, fines, citations, and something about intentional defacement of community standards. They claimed my tractor violated not just one, but 6 different HOA codes. I laughed out loud. 6 codes for one tractor? They're getting creative. But I wasn't about to back down. That evening, as I stood polishing the hood of my chrome-red tractor, Karen showed up again, this time with 2 board members and a smug look. "Mr. Walker," she began, "you are now officially in violation of multiple neighborhood ordinances. If you do not remove this abomination within 48 hours, the HOA will proceed with legal action." I leaned against the tractor. "Karen, you sure you want to go down that road? Because I've got paperwork too." Her eyes narrowed. "Paperwork?" I nodded. "City permits. Turns out, this tractor is classified as an agricultural vehicle under state law. As long as I maintain property with it, I'm in full compliance. Your HOA codes don't override state regulations." Karen froze. One of the board members whispered something to her, but she waved him off. "That doesn't change the fact that it's unsightly," she snapped. I smiled. Unsightly is an opinion, not a law. The next day, I called up a local attorney, a friend of mine named Greg, who loved nothing more than sticking it to HOAs. When he read the notice, he laughed so hard he nearly spilled his coffee. "Walker, this is the pettiest case I've seen all month. Don't worry, I'll handle it." He drafted a formal response, citing every possible statute that protected my right to keep and use the tractor. Within 3 days, the HOA received a legal counter letter that left them speechless. But Karen wasn't giving up. She doubled down, hiring her own lawyer, filing complaints, even trying to get the city inspector involved. Except when the inspector arrived, he ended up taking selfies with the tractor instead. "This thing's awesome." The inspector laughed. "You're fully compliant, by the way." Karen's face turned the color of my paint job. The very next weekend, the local news returned for an update, and this time, I gave them a full tour. I explained how the HOA tried to bully me, how I used state law to defend my property, and how my Supercar tractor became a neighborhood legend. Karen watched from across the street, fuming as the cameras rolled. When the segment aired that night, the HOA looked ridiculous, overreaching, humorless, and defeated. But as I sat watching the broadcast, Greg called me. "Congratulations, Walker," he said. "You've won the legal battle. But I've got a feeling Karen's not done with you yet." And he was right. The final showdown was coming. One that would decide who truly ran this neighborhood. The HOA's final meltdown. By the next week, things had gotten quiet. Too quiet. Karen hadn't shown up, no letters came. And the HOA's meetings suddenly went members only. I knew they were planning something. I just didn't know what. Then one Saturday morning, I heard the sound of heavy machinery outside. When I stepped onto my porch, I froze. A flatbed tow truck was parked in front of my house, engine running. 2 workers in safety vests were walking toward my driveway. Karen stood nearby, sunglasses on, holding her clipboard like a judge's gavel. "Mr. Walker," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness, "the HOA has voted unanimously to remove your non-compliant tractor. Effective immediately." I couldn't help but laugh. "You're towing it? On what authority?" She lifted a paper. "Under emergency enforcement protocol." I cut her off. "That's funny, because under state agricultural code, unauthorized removal of registered equipment is considered theft." The workers hesitated. I pulled out my phone, already recording. "You two might want to double-check with your boss before you load up something that isn't HOA property." Karen's smile faltered. "Stop recording this." "Sorry, Karen," I said, "but this is public property access, totally legal to film." The video captured every second, the shouting, the confusion, and finally, the tow truck driver shaking his head. "Lady, we're not touching that. You're on your own." When they left, Karen completely lost it. "You're destroying the community's reputation," she screamed. "Oh, don't worry," I said. I think the community's doing just fine. And I was right. Within hours, my video hit the internet again. Millions watched as the HOA tried to tow my supercar tractor. Comments flooded in, mocking their obsession with control. News outlets picked it up, and even a famous car YouTuber offered to feature my tractor on his channel. By the end of the week, the HOA's inbox was overflowing with angry messages from viewers all over the country. Several residents even showed up at the next HOA meeting demanding Karen's resignation. She stepped down that very night. A month later, the new HOA board sent me a letter, not a warning this time, but an apology. They officially dropped all fines and even voted to allow creative property displays under new guidelines. As I sat on my porch one evening, the sunset glowing off the tractor's polished paint, I couldn't help but smile. What started as a petty HOA complaint turned into a neighborhood revolution. Karen moved away not long after. But sometimes, when the wind's quiet and the streetlights come on, I can almost hear her voice echoing in my mind. Mr. Walker, that tractor is too shiny. I just grin, rev the engine, and let the roar do the talking. The HOA said my tractor was an eyesore, so I turned it into a legend.